You know ID in the town all day. ID in the SEA. You know ID in the town all day. ID in the SEA.
Hello and welcome to episode 369 of the fabulous Peltoncast, sponsored by our friends at Pagliacci Pizza. I'm your co-host, Kevin Pelton.
And I'm Tristan Carcino.
And we are coming to you from Renton, Washington, home of the Super Bowl 48 champion Seattle Seahawks.
And you know what episode number it is. We have to say it. It's the Tyler Odd episode.
Oh, there you go.
That's right.
I don't know if he's on my database. He's in my spreadsheet.
Nice.
Well, let's get into it, starting with this week's beer in our search for Seattle's best IPA. It is from our friends at Black Raven Brewery, the Trickster IPA.
Okay.
I don't feel like I've ever had a Black Raven beer besides the Festivus beer, which
I
we've had like 1,000
definitely
times. But Black Raven...
Did you say 1,000 times?
No,
I've got some grievances to air about that statement.
No. This is a slight exaggeration. According to their website, Black Raven hatched in 2009 in Redmond. Their brewing moved primarily to their Woodinville location in 2019, although the Redmond location continues to operate as well. In mythology, the Raven can play tricks or otherwise disobey normal rules, hence the name Trickster. This well-balanced IPA has a light fruit, citrus, and piney hop aroma with a full hop flavor. With delicately balanced molten hops and a 6.9% ABV, this beer has truly earned its name.
I got to say I was a little skeptical about this when you first brought it up. I don't know what it is about Black Raven, but I always kind of think of it as sort of just like, this is a replacement level brewery.
You think so?
I don't know. There's nothing about it that has ever like attracted me to Black Raven, but then I saw this can, and I'm telling you right now how important packaging is. It's pretty sleek.
It is a sleek can. This is a 19-ounce can.
19 ounces, but like the packaging is really nice. I feel like this is the best looking Black Raven beer that I've ever seen, and it makes me more excited about the beer itself.
Well, there you go. It's quite drinkable on first try.
It's really pungent after I open the can.
Ooh, the hops are strong. The hops are real strong. So we'll come back and discuss this after we've had a little bit more. Our toast, we start with a congratulations to the Storm's Jewel Lloyd on being named Western Conference Player of the Week for last week. Lloyd averaged 24.3 points per game as the Storm went 2-1 on their road trip, including a career-high 39 points Saturday in Dallas, the most a Storm player has ever scored in a regulation game in the regular season.
Wow. I'm kind of shocked by that.
Yeah, Brianna Stewart scored 42, I believe, last year in the playoffs. Lauren Jackson had 47 in an overtime game.
I see.
Those are the caveats. All right, next up to the second annual Champions of Change All-Star Basketball game coming up this Friday at Climate Pledge Arena featuring third Pelton brother Jake Wong.
There it is.
I am so disappointed that I am going to be out of town and unable to watch this game.
What changed for Jake in his life that he became famous enough to participate in this game this year?
I don't know that anything changed in Jake's life in that regard.
Oh, I see.
I was texting with him about this. He asked me a little bit about the quality of play last year.
Okay.
Which
wow, he's scouting. I like that.
Wasn't necessarily high, and he said that his strategy. We're gonna have Jake on next week.
Okay.
To recap his appearance, obviously.
I'm so mad that I'm not going to be there.
He said that his plan was just to guard the worst player on the court at all times.
Wow, so he's going to guard himself?
Oh no.
No, he's going to be firing down threes, right?
I've seen Jake play. I can't say I remember his game. I kind of forgotten it now.
I think he's a shooter.
But the important thing is, like, look, it's a celebrity basketball game. There are more basketball players this year. We'll talk about them in a second. But a lot of these people have not played basketball in a long period of time. So the fact that Jake plays pickup regularly gives him a leg up in this one, I think.
A leg up versus like Isaiah Thomas?
Not versus him.
What players do you think playing pickup regularly?
No, I'm saying like there's football players. Like last year there was a rugby player who appeared to have never shot a basketball before in their life.
Okay.
There's lots of players from other sports involved in this.
I think the strategy, if you're Jake or any person, if you're any listener who is going into a celebrity all-star game, charity game or whatever, is you don't want to be embarrassed, so you can't be dunked on. So you never want to play too hard defense.
Correct.
This is one of the only situations I would advise not trying that hard. You just want to clear out of the
I
way.
think there's a lot of situations where I advise not trying that hard, but this is one of them.
You want to clear
Not
out of the
in
way.
basketball.
You don't want to be the guy who's trying harder than everybody else, and
No.
you definitely don't want to be dunked on.
I mean, so the thing about last year's game, if I was to break it down, like when you play pickup with players who come predominantly from other sports, there's like certain stereotypes they convey to. I weirdly play basketball like a soccer player,
What?
where like they have great endurance, not necessarily a lot of skill, but they're always going to be out on the break or like defending the break because of the fact that they're used to running up and down all day.
Okay.
Football players, like very physical, typically, a lot of like throwing the ball hard at the rim, in my experience. And that was kind of what last year's game was like. Because obviously there was a pretty heavy football base, and there's going to be many football players back this year. I don't. It doesn't seem like Michael Bennett is probably going to play after his attempt to last year.
See,
but-
his attempt to last year.
and then he like spent the second half just joined the broadcast.
That's where
basically.
Michael Bennett knows where he
Exactly.
belongs. Yeah,
He
water
knows.
finds its
He's
level.
not amazing.
But the
Too.
other thing, there's one other thing that you don't want to be in the game.
What's that?
I think you can be the worst player, but you don't want to be the charity case player where everybody's passing you you're like firing 53s and everybody's getting the rebound and passing it to you again and again and again. And then you finally hit one and people cheer out of pity. You don't want to be that player.
You don't want to be
So,
the walk on.
I think anonymous bad
Of course.
is where you want to
Yeah.
be rather than so embarrassingly bad that everybody else on the court takes pity on you.
I mean, where you actually want to be is Arnie Duncan in the.
Just good.
Yeah, that's what you want to be. But
Didn't he play in college?
Yeah. For most of us, that's not an option. So yes, you're aiming for anonymously bad. So the Champions of Change Foundation was formed by Cliff Averill, Doug Baldwin Jr. They both will play, and Michael Bennett. This year's game features newcomers Cameron Brink from Stanford, Sydney Rice,
Who is Cameron Brink?
Stanford women's team,
Okay.
likely top 5 pick in next year's WNBA draft, assuming that she declares.
Okay.
Sydney Rice, Trey Simmons, Rodney Stuckey, and Isaiah Thomas, who did not play last year. I feel like, was it opposite the Zeke end last year? Was that an issue? I can't remember, but the timing works out better this year. In addition to the returning Jamal Crawford, Spencer Hawes, and Will Conroy.
I'm really skeptical which of these players you think that.
Again, this is not the full rosters.
Okay.
There were like 10 plus players on each team.
Okay.
Like Charlie Furbish, who played briefly for the Mariners.
Wow, okay, we're down to Charlie Furbish level.
Was one of the competitors last year. And is back again this year. Brian Walters, who did
Oh.
actually play some basketball.
Brian Walters can hoop,
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah, he can. He doesn't even look like the football player trying to play basketball. I will give him that. But it's not all basketball players. I've just mostly named the basketball players because they are perhaps the biggest names among this group. aside
Charlie
from-
Furbish running it back 2 years in a row.
Running back.
Wow. All you had to be was a Mariners reliever in like 2012 or something.
Yes. So speaking of Doug Baldwin Jr., last Friday was the grand opening for the Family First Center in Renton.
Wow.
Thanks to everybody, all of the listener who helped fund it through their donations and by attending Peltoncast Live. It's awesome to feel like we played some small part in this, but obviously Doug Baldwin Jr., the driving force in the creation of this community center right near where you used to live.
I'm fascinated to see it.
Me too.
Charlie Furbish spent quite a few years with the Mariners.
How long?
2011, 2015.
I think he's presumably still makes Seattle his home as he's married to Michelle Ledka of the local Fox 13 sports department.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, lastly this week, Oakview Group selected by the City of Seattle and Seattle Public Schools to redevelop Memorial Stadium into a 10,000-seat stadium capable of hosting local pro sports teams in time for the 2026 World Cup practices when Seattle is hosting those games.
He was traded for Doug Fister, was part of that deal.
Doug Fister, wow.
And I think Doug Fister was my favorite Mariner for like at least a couple of games.
Yeah. Good for Doug Fister.
He was at Marco went to a birthday party this weekend. Do you see this on Instagram? And they had
The party favors were
Mariners
baseball
cards
Yeah.
from 1998. First off, how did they find this?
Well, the internet is an incredible place.
Can you imagine that? And it was just Mariners. It wasn't like baseball in general. And they were unopened packs of 5 Mariners cards from 1998. Whoever this family is, that is an incredible party favor for the parents of the children who were at the party.
I mean, having a party favor for the parents of the children who are at the party is a great start in the first place.
They gave it to the kids, and they also, like, I guess you could just, like, select the cards because there was, like, an obstacle course that happened at this party.
Huh.
And so I guess Marco could have chosen, like, a Griffey card or whatever. I don't really know what he would do with that in the year 2023 or whatever. He's not sending it in to get rated. But he could post a TikTok of him opening up the pack. Maybe we should have considered that. Anyway, this is like the TikTok that I'm seeing all the time. Is people opening.
Does he have a TikTok account?
No, he doesn't.
Okay.
It's people opening basketball trading card packs, looking for like a special color or rookies or whatever, and they're like, we pulled it, and it's always like the most name. Who's the most anonymous rookie you could think of from last year?
Most anonymous rookie from last year.
Maybe who was drafted though.
Yeah, give me a second to think on this one. Malachi Branham.
Yeah, that's who it is. They're like, I paid $500 for a box of cards, and they're like, oh, it's autograph, and it's like, it's Malachi, and they're like, I don't even know who that is. It's like, me either, bro. Anyway, if I've heard of the player, it is like a miracle. But I watch every time for some reason. I don't know. You're just like people opening things. There's something psychologically about somebody looking at something that is unknown that attracts us to it. Anyway,
I mean, yes, there's a lot of research on that, but why how that feeds into TikTok and YouTube in particular still remains unclear to me.
It's the same psychology.
I know.
1998.
But you could be watching people open things that are more consequential.
Like what?
I don't know.
There's also ones with the world leaders trading cards. You know what I mean? That they would make. Those are the best. But so you
got to make sure you get a rookie though.
It's a long running joke or whatever. But has this pack 5 Mariners in it, and I'm like, wow, I hope you pull a Griffey or whatever. Marco doesn't care. He doesn't know who any of these people are. They all retired before he was born.
That is correct.
But he pulls in the pack from Visalia, California, PCL's finest.
I did notice that in the
Rich Amaral, and I'm like, do you know who led the PCL in hitting? And Luca's like, what's that? I'm like, the Pacific Coast League, idiot. I'm like, what team was he playing for?
Was it for Visalia? I guess they weren't in that. It was the Calgary Cannons.
He's from Visalia.
Calgary Cannons is who he was playing for.
The Calgary Cannons.
I believe that's like that stadium may be at altitude.
Yeah. So that's why he had hit for average better?
Oh, it helps in all regards.
Okay.
Like averages are higher at Coors Field. Do you not think that's the case?
Anyway, I thought that was kind of wild that of all players. It was like Jamie Moyer, Edgar Martinez, Jay Buhner, and then Rich Amaral.
Of course it was. It had to be. It had to be.
I wowed the children with my knowledge of where Rich Amaral is from and his 5-hit game for the Mariners.
That was the one on opening night, right?
He had 5 hits on opening night. I think it's still a Mariners record, isn't it? Or somebody gotten 6 hits since then?
It might be tied for a Mariners record. Calgary is at 3,400 feet elevation.
Oh, not quite a mile high.
Not quite a mile high, but still considerable.
I know how high a mile high is because of the Nuggets court.
They do go out of their way to tell us about it. All right, well, the NBA draft is coming up this Thursday.
Wait, we have one last toast unless we're doing food news.
What toast? Oh, you kept telling me this, but you never explained any context for it, so I did not put it in the notes.
I have to give you context for everything. I said, don't forget to put this in the notes.
And then I forgot to put it in the notes.
And then
correct.
you checked it in. But huge food news in the city of Seattle. Last week, I was at the soft opening at...
Wow, two softs?
It was a very soft opening.
Okay.
I might have been the only person there.
It was a pillowy soft opening.
Yeah, there were not many. It was employees, maybe not even that. But the soft opening at the Crocodile in Seattle's Belltown neighborhood, in the bar underneath the Hereafter Bar, right where the comedy club is. Opening soon. The best sandwiches in Seattle, Washington, not Maono, because those aren't sandwiches. Tats Deli at the Crocodile. Get ready for it. Can you imagine?
Well, I'll toast to that.
There we go.
Because that's presumably like wildly different hours than the.
Oh, it's going late, baby. It
regular
is
Tats.
going
Yeah.
late. If you're at a show at the Croc, dance party, comedy club, whatever, it's fucking 12 a.m., 1 a.m., and you want yourself a Tatstrami, it is right there. They have Old Bay fries.
Am I going to be able to get the Tats if I'm not at an event at the Crocodile?
Absolutely. There's a bar that's just open to the public.
All right. Well, okay.
Yeah. This is huge food news. Again, the best sandwich, everybody agrees, in the city of Seattle at the Croc. I'm telling you, I cannot imagine a better pairing for late night food. This is like straight up Seattle dog outside of a show.
I mean, it's not because
It's better. It's a better food.
I agree. One of Seattle's two best sandwiches.
And I had it. Maybe it's a slightly higher price point. I think it's worth it though.
We had the turkey tat there.
They do not have the turkey tat, just regular Tatstrami. It's a limited menu,
which is fine by me.
No, it's you're just honing in on the best foods, right? The Tats menu, every item I assume is amazing. I've basically only had 3 items because when you find the Tatstrami, you don't stray that far away when you're looking for some Russian dressing.
I agree.
But had it, it was as good as it is at Tats. The quality was not lower. And again, I don't think I've ever seen Old Bay fries at Tats before, and they had Old Bay fries there.
I feel like they definitely have fries on the Tats menu.
No, they have fries, but I'm saying with Old Bay
Yeah, I
seasoning.
understand what you're saying.
It was incredible.
Well, that sounds quite good. I look forward to trying this out. I'm going to double check on whether they have the Old Bay fries here. Because we need to fact check you. Yeah, fresh cut fries, Old Bay or regular.
Okay.
Was on the menu. So I guess I had never really paid attention to that or noticed it. All right, with that, the NBA draft, as we record this, less than 48 hours away. And the most important news about the NBA draft out there
Yes.
is that I,
Oh, wow.
Kevin Pelton, I was asked earlier this week if I referred to myself ever in the third person. I said very rarely. And then I referred to myself as ESPN's Kevin Pelton as a joke.
That's
Will
ESPN's
be
senior writer.
Yeah, who corrected that? I forget who did, but the listener did.
I remember who it was. I can't remember. That was Grant Wojcik, I think.
Okay. Will be part of a live stream during the NBA draft this year.
Wow.
From Bristol, Connecticut, from our studios, which also includes New Orleans Pelicans forward Trey Murphy III.
Wow. Okay. Say hi for me.
We'll be right on the same panel with me.
Do you think your perspective, you should, like when you're talking about players, will be the same? You should grade the Bradley Beal trade again and get Trey Murphy's response on that.
Look,
you're like now the widely hated ESPN senior analyst Kevin Pelton. Every tweet they have, it was like the post about. Of course, they had to highlight the Beal trade grades, which I hate. I don't know if you read the comments, but
enough. I read enough of them.
people are really skeptical whether you watch basketball or not. But then they go out of their way to post you talking about Wemby. It makes it seem like he's gonna like you're like, yeah, he's fucking trash. It's just like straight up. That's welcome to ESPN. Did you not know you worked there? You work at the same place as Stephen A. Smith. This is what they're looking for. This is what pays the bills. Anyway, I read all the comments and with glee, of course, and I agreed with every single one of them.
Is that what Ben B was saying? Also, that he agreed with every single one of them when he said that the replies were hilarious.
The reply, like my favorite comments were the people who agreed with you, who were just making the same argument to the people in the comments, and then people getting mad at that person, or whatever. It's just like
it's a virtuous cycle.
That was what's the term where something really it was like Chekhov's D.
I don't know if that's the correct application there.
What is it when you have Chekhov something?
Chekhov's gun is like when something is referenced early on in a story, you know it's going to come back. So, for example, Chekhov's extra point was when Jason Myers missed an extra point in the third quarter, and you're like, oh yeah, that's definitely going to make the difference in whether this game goes to overtime or not. And it did.
Honestly, it's the exact opposite of Chekhov's D.
That was a Mina Kimes tweet, for the record.
Because Bradley Beal probably is not going to win a championship with the Suns, and nobody's going to bring up that trade grade again. Nobody's going to go back and be like, wow, you know who was right on that one? ESPN's Kevin Pelton and those 3 commenters.
It never happens. Not one time.
The 185 other people on Twitter who disagreed.
I mean, it is interesting. Like, I saw something on Reddit about like me trying to be like a know-it-all contrarian. It's like, I don't actually like. Obviously, I assume that people are going to be more excited about the Suns getting Bradley Beal than I am, because I'm thinking about Bradley Beal's $47 million contract and the second apron luxury tax implications in a way that, you know, the average fan understandably is not as familiar with the incoming collective bargaining agreement. But I didn't know that it was going to be that unpopular. I assumed people would generally think the same thing, that Bradley Beal, it's like widely known that Bradley Beal has the worst contract in the NBA.
Every grade you're right.
Second worst,
you're like, people are finally going to be like, Pelton nailed it on this one.
I don't think
you're
that.
like, you can hear the chants of Pelton. You're like, you know that Nuggets parade they had last week? After this trade grade, they're going to have a parade for me. Lo and behold, people thought a trade for a superstar was good? Well, I never. An aging superstar to a team with Kevin Durant? They thought that was a good trade? I dare say, people.
I didn't think it was going to be that upsetting to you. I didn't think that other people...
Twitter overreacted to a clickbait post?
For example, my colleague Zach Harper graded it much more favorably for the Suns than I did.
Uh-huh.
So I didn't necessarily expect that.
ESPN didn't highlight that shit, though, did they?
They did not highlight a competitor's trade grades. No,
You're
my former colleague. He's
you
at
said
the Athletic.
You said your colleague, and I was like, wow, shouts to Harper, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, nobody's gonna be posting on Twitter the B+, the B grade. I'm sorry, the D is what gets posted on Twitter. Are you just getting used to this?
I'm
How
not
many
just
years have you
getting used
worked
to
there?
this, but like, you would think at some point people might learn the lesson.
No, this is Twitter. NBA executives don't learn the lesson. You think Twitter reply guys are gonna learn the lesson? That's not the point.
I agree, it's not the point.
They're not like, there's no reply guy who's like, well, that was reason analysis. That's not what it's about.
So anyways, Thursday night I'll be on the Hoop Collective
I just love
live
the idea that
stream.
you're like, yeah, people, I think
I didn't know it was going to draw that much of a reaction. Like, it's
clearly
not when
you don't watch the games. Maybe you do watch the games, but you don't read the internet.
I think that might be plausible. I have this conversation with my buddy Seth Partnow all the time. He's like angry about something on Twitter, and I'm like, I'm not even seeing this.
Name dropping again. Anyway, tell us
So
about
again,
how
it's
you're
gonna be
be on
me
with
and
your
my best
friend Trey Murphy.
Third. We're going to be on. Also, so Brian Windhorst will, of course, be a part of it.
Is Trey Murphy going to be there in person?
Yeah.
In Bristol, Connecticut.
As far as I understand.
Trey Murphy's going there.
Yeah.
You going for drinks after?
I don't think so.
Like, it'll wrap up. You'll be like, wow, Trey, that was like really good broadcast. Be like, what are you doing after this?
I mean, I have to write draft grades. If you know the trade grades were unpopular.
Are you going to be
wait
furious?
until I write draft
You're gonna be
grades?
like, they traded 2 second-round picks for a future second-round pick.
No, not
This is the grade that people really love.
not draft trade grades. I mean, I will be writing those. I'm grading the actual draft picks.
Oh, grades on the draft
Yeah.
picks.
Mel Kiper style.
Do you do that every year?
This will be the first time.
This is a first?
Yeah.
Wow. Let's just say if a team takes a punter before Russell Wilson, maybe you grade that team worse.
Well, fortunately, here in basketball, all positions are equally valued, so we don't have that issue. That's a subtweet that like 3 people will get. Yeah.
So you're doing draft grades immediately after at the bar with Trey Murphy?
Yes. Yes. Well, do a shot.
You're going to be
do
drinking a
grade.
Gansett there. I assume that's what you're drinking.
A what?
A Gansett.
Is that the New England beer?
No, it's from Pennsylvania.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know.
But that's what they have all throughout the East Coast.
I've had a Yingling in Connecticut.
Oh, well, you could have a Yingling, yeah. Anyway, so you're sucking down on Tall Boys of the Gansett with Trey Murphy, and you're just typing out your draft grades.
Yeah.
Every grade, and you'll be like, I think this is a D, and Trey Murphy will be like, nah, that's an A. You should have Trey Murphy's draft and trade grades.
You
Ask him what he thought about the Beal trade. I guarantee you it's an A+.
This seems like some sort of an SNL short. Me and hanging out with Trey Murphy the third.
What SNL short do you think involves ESPN's Kevin Pelton
I'm not saying.
and a basketball player that I hadn't heard of before you told me about him yesterday?
I think there's one in there. So the Portland Trailblazers hold the third pick in the draft. In a spoiler, Victor Wembanyama is likely to go first to the San Antonio Spurs. My colleague Woj reported earlier Tuesday that Brandon...
You should grade that draft really, really badly because it's the obvious pick.
I mean, they don't get an A for taking Wemby. Like, they didn't do anything to take Wemby.
They get an A for getting Wemby on the team.
That's their lottery luck is an A. That's not an A for their...
Well, you don't grade that.
Well, exactly. I don't grade that.
You should do lottery luck grades. If your team
It's a pretty obvious grade, though.
If your team ends up with Victor Wembanyama in the draft,
Who are they getting?
Victor Wembanyama.
Yeah, that's not his name.
Nailed it again.
Okay.
Look, when he's drafted by the Seahawks with pick 20, I'll figure out how to pronounce his name. But until then.
So Woj reported earlier Tuesday that Brandon Miller solidified his standing with the Charlotte Hornets as the number 2 pick.
Really?
In a second workout.
Wow, okay. So it's done. They're saying he's being drafted.
Solidified his standing. That doesn't mean that it's over. That would clear the path for the Blazers to either trade the rights to Scoot Henderson or draft him number 3 overall. When the Blazers first jumped up to 3 in the lottery, I would have probably said like an 80% chance they trade the pick.
Okay.
I feel like the signs since then have pointed a little more towards them keeping it.
Okay.
In particular, one interesting move is for their new G League team that's coming online this season. They hired in the front office Pooh Jeter, who was formerly Scoot Henderson's teammate with the G League Ignite last season. Yeah.
Okay, not coach.
No. Pooh Jeter was playing alongside him.
Still playing?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so they hired him in the front office.
Yes. Which seems like less than a coincidence.
I still think before the draft happens, I don't know if I would take too much. I think people take stock in those things. Wasn't there like the Suns had hired like Luka's coach or whatever?
Well, yes, they hired Igor Kokoshkov prior to winning the lottery.
And then they decided to draft DeAndre Ayton. Like
who went to the University of Arizona, which also the Robert Sarver went to.
I understand.
I think that tie was stronger. Pooh Jeter, by the way, player development coach for the Blazers. I guess he's not the front office. It's coaching staff. Oh, assistant GM for the G League team and player development coach.
I don't know if we should take too much from that because they don't know, right? There is a good chance. The Blazers don't know what trade is going to come in. Like they wouldn't make a hire for presumably a long-term contract with a fairly good chunk of money attached to it or whatever, just because of the possibility of them getting Scoot. They wanted to hire Pooh Jeter either way.
Sure.
So I don't know if we need to take too much from that, but
he has the local ties, is having played at UP.
What is the latest that you're hearing about this pick right now as we sit?
I mean, what do you say I'm hearing? Like, I'm not out there, like, talking to people.
You're an aggregator right now, right? Yeah. You as the aggregator of whatever the conversations are that are happening, you're hearing a lot more. You're paying, how about this? Not hearing, right?
Yes.
You're paying attention to a lot more of the chatter than I am.
The Blazers are, by all accounts, making a lot of offers involving the number 3 pick. It seems like
making a lot or receiving a lot.
Well, I think making.
So they're being aggressive about trying to trade that third pick.
But the value that they're placing on that third pick is such that I don't know that it's likely that any of those offers come to fruition.
Who is the player? Is Zion out of the question because
I don't think he's out of the question, but I don't know that I think that's a likely scenario.
Is that too steep for the third pick?
No.
Zion is more valuable, or the Blazers are less interested in it.
I just don't think it's a likely scenario. It's a long shot.
Okay, who are some other players that you feel like?
I mean, so there was a report that they've offered the number 3 pick to Miami for Bam Adebayo.
Okay.
So the Miami Heat can either choose between, well, would we like to have the number 3 pick and our current roster, the rest of our current roster, or would we like to have Bam Adebayo and the chance at trading for Damian Lillard should he request a trade from the Blazers if they keep the number 3 pick? Which do you think the Miami Heat would prefer, those two options? Because I think I know. What are you looking up here?
I'm looking up the term for it in succession when the company that was trying to buy them. I do remember it's called like a Viking takeover or something. What is that term?
That sounds plausible, yeah. Is the term? I don't know it specifically.
I'm not seeing. I have that term wrong. That's what I was frantically looking for before you called me out. But I love the idea of the game of chess where they're like, "We're taking Bam Adebayo," and they're like, "No, we're taking Dame."
You're
Lillard.
not getting Dame. We're taking Bam Adebayo. That's what happened here. The Blazers were the team that were being acquired.
That was like
this scenario.
They did not. They are Logan Roy, or they are Kendall Roy in that situation. They are not understanding their position. Let me just say in that one, that is very cute that the Blazers think that. But also at the same time, I'm just like, Bam Adebayo, I watched obviously the entire finals, him in the playoffs quite a bit. Bam Adebayo doesn't change the Blazers that much.
I think he would.
Are the Blazers a top 4 seed with Bam Adebayo?
No.
Okay,
not.
so then what are you doing? I'm not saying you have to win the championship, but like,
I mean, you're trying to signal to Damian Lillard that you're trying to trade the pick without actually trying to trade the pick.
okay, so you're trying to, you think they're just, but that's not even like outlandish. You know what I mean? Like if they were, Bam, like,
It is because Miami would never do it. It's not like they're offering the 3 pick to San Antonio for Wemby. I agree. That's not.
yeah, that would be like,
It's not like you're, hey, Dallas, would you like the 3 pick for Luka?
they're like, I think we could pair Giannis and Dame with this pick for Scoot Henderson that the team ahead of us doesn't want to draft. Are there any other names besides Bam?
I mean, like I mentioned OG Anunoby when they first got the pick. He's still a logical option. Pascal Siakam, also from Toronto. Both of these guys going into the last year of their
Probably
contract.
available. Like probably could make that trade.
I wouldn't say probably available. I'd say plausibly available.
Okay.
No one really knows what Toronto is doing.
Okay. But again, neither of those. If you had the Blazers roster, plus,
There's no one they're going to be able to trade with the 3rd pick that is going to immediately turn them into a championship contender from a team that, couldn't even compete for a play-in spot last year.
Okay, how likely are they to trade Dame?
I would say my gut feeling at the moment is that it is more likely than not that Damian Lillard is not with the Blazers at the start of next season.
Next season. What about the start of next week?
Well, sure. I mean, I don't know how quickly that would happen. I don't think there's a huge rush to do it.
So you're saying that you think there is a better than 50% chance that a Dame trade happens before the season, not necessarily around the draft though.
Well, I don't think it would come together that quickly, no.
Okay. So you think the draft happens, the most likely outcome, or better than 50% outcome, is, which would make it the most likely outcome? They take Scoot.
They keep the pick.
They keep the pick. They take Scoot. They're like, what do you think, Dame? Here's the roster. We have our 50th guard. Are you happy with this? Dame obviously is like...
Damian Lillard said at the end of the season in the exit interviews that he wasn't that excited about playing, I'm paraphrasing here, that he wasn't that excited about playing with another young player from this draft. I don't think that has changed.
Uh-huh.
So
they're not going to draft an old player from this draft. Drew Timmy.
They get Drew Timmy in the 2nd round. This changes everything.
That's probably the best outcome for the Blazers long term.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that Damian Lillard is the greatest Blazer of all time.
Without question.
Up there with the greatest Northwest players of all time.
But he has surpassed Clyde Drexler and Bill Walton, I think, in terms of his Portland-specific career.
He hasn't had as high of a highs as they've had, but he's never played with as good of players.
Not at the team level, but I would say that Yeah, and I mean, Clyde Drexler did have an All-NBA first-team season, but I think Damian Lillard has had a longer sustained peak of great play than Clyde Drexler did in
And
Portland.
obviously Bill Walton.
And yeah, Walton had a higher peak, but sadly all too brief.
Let's say entire Northwest, Dame, let's say he's the best Blazer ever. I know that I'm going to be biased at least towards Sonics.
I mean, he's still not ahead of Gary Payton's Sonics career, I don't think. But it's close. I mean, like I was thinking the other day that like between the Oakland point guards, you can have a pretty good debate. Jason Kidd's probably still the best all-time point guard from Oakland, but
I almost spit out my wine when you said
Wow,
that. Are you kidding me?
it's close.
Jason Kidd is better than Gary Payton or Dame Lillard?
I think so. He's like second all-time in both assists and steals.
Do you even watch basketball? Now I'm going to have to go find those comments again about this. That is absurd.
No. Oh, no.
Jason Kidd better than Dame Lillard and Gary Payton.
Yeah.
That is ridiculous.
How is that ridiculous?
He's not even that good.
Well, that's a ridiculous comment. I mean, he was like runner-up for MVP. I mean, that was kind of ridiculous what he was, but still.
He's not an all-around player at all.
Jason Kidd?
Was he as good of a defender as GP? Could he score like GP could?
He couldn't score like GP could, no, but he's a better passer.
When was he ever on a good team? One time with the Nets?
You know, he won the championship as the starting point guard for the Mavericks, right? He played a much bigger role when he won a championship than Gary Payton did at the end of his career when he did. Did you not follow Jason Kidd's career very
That was
well?
a sham championship.
I mean, also the
It's
triple
like the
doubles.
93 Blue Jays.
He's second. He is in fact second all time in assists and second all time in steals. Like,
That's actually wild.
yeah.
Fair enough.
But the fact that Oakland has like 3 of the 10 greatest point guards of all time from one city, and all since coming into the league since 1990 is pretty wild.
Let's say you, as a person who's generally covering the Blazers as the closest team,
Yeah.
and also knowing that the Sonics, it's done, they're coming back, wanting the Blazers as a rival in 4 or 5 years. Like, they draft Scoot, they've got this young roster. This is the best outcome. Ultimately, this is the moment.
I mean, you said it. Like, none of these moves are going to make them a championship contender. Like, maybe somehow, they make this trade and Shaden develops, so quickly that he takes them to a higher level. I mean, but you're threading a needle, basically.
But also, you would look at it and you would say, like, long term, 4 or 5 years.
But you also, like, Damian Lillard doesn't have the no trade clause that Bradley Beal does. But the reason, like, if the Wizards had traded Bradley Beal a year and a half ago at the trade deadline, they would have gotten so much more for him than they did now.
You don't want to make the trade too late.
Yeah.
No, I think that makes sense. I mean, it's like the Nets being able to get the haul that they got for KD or whatever. Find a team that's desperate. I mean, it's the Heat, obviously.
I mean, maybe someone else makes a better offer than the Heat. They only have so many draft picks available.
Or
although
you use that to leverage
after the
whatever.
draft, the Heat can, I believe, trade 3 first-round picks.
Plus pick swaps.
Plus some pick swaps, yes.
So they could end up with something like 5 first-round picks from the Heat.
What do you mean? You're counting the swaps as first-round picks?
Yeah, ultimately, like, they're
I
not
don't think I
first-round
would
picks.
count them that way because, you're going into a rebuild if you make that move. But you're going into it in that scenario with positive picks and with 2 top 10 picks already as your core in Shaden and Scoot.
And pretty exciting players.
Yeah.
But there's also a chance that...
Like from a person who attends games in Portland standpoint.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Like, obviously the better scenario for me is somehow they find a way to make one of these trades and like they're competitive next year.
But not OG
But-
and Unobi. Like, are they competitive or they make the play-in?
They're make the play and probably make the playoffs.
Following Scoot, if he's Jaw or whatever, who's his most comparable player to you?
I think physically he's closer to Derrick Rose in terms of his strength and
Can he shoot?
athleticism. He has shown some indications of being able to shoot, but overall, no.
Okay.
But most of these guys can't shoot who are like super athletic point guards when they come into the league.
And they learn how to shoot, or
Some of them do.
Jason Kidd's case.
No, Jason Kidd. Where's he all time? He's 15th in NBA history in 3-pointers. 15th. Like, I don't know. Is your opinion of Jason Kidd stuck in 1997? Like, I know you followed the NBA after that. Here's a fun trivia question.
Oh my god!
Use this at the bar the next time.
You and Trey Murphy?
Yes, I 100% did it. Who had more career 3-pointers, Jason Kidd or Dirk Nowitzki?
Well, the answer is going to be Jason Kidd, because you
Obviously,
just set me up for that.
Obviously it is.
He just
Who had more
played for a
career
lot
3-pointers, Jason Kidd or JJ Redick?
Are you kidding?
Yep.
Well, JJ Redick was a role player. Like,
Who had more career 3-pointers, Jason Kidd or Kobe?
that's kind of bonkers.
It's an amazing list.
Wow.
Jason Kidd or Steve Nash, for whom he was once.
Are
No, I
you
guess he
kidding
wasn't
me?
traded. They played together in Phoenix.
He's hit more threes than those. How many years did this motherfucker play?
A lot of years. Like, Jason Kidd played.
All of those other people knew respectfully when to retire.
He was still very good his last season. His last season was the Knicks when they made the second round of the playoffs. And then he retired to go become the head coach of the Nets, and neither of them ended up better off for that particular move. He played 19 seasons in the NBA.
How many did Dirk play?
Let's see. Dirk came in 99 and retired in 2000. Wait, was his last year was 15. No, it was after that. He played a lot of years too.
How did Jason Kidd hit more threes than
Yeah. Dirk never was that high volume of a 3-point shooter. That's why Cat can go around and declare himself the greatest big man shooter of all time.
Wow,
Dirk,
Sam Perkins gone? Has he been vanished from history?
Dirk played 21 seasons.
Dirk played more seasons than Jason Kidd?
That's correct.
And Jason Kidd hit more threes?
That is correct. You're just relayed for this. He was only a 35% career 3-point shooter, but he took a lot of them.
Wow. Well, we really have reassessed Jason Kidd's career here in this Blazers segment.
I really did not expect that.
I'm excited to see what happens. I think the thing that I would want the least to happen is the OG Anunoby trade or something like that, because it's just like,
Oh, believe me, they could get lower upside than OJ. I'm sure they could.
any of those. But it's like, it's not going to be fun for the future. When you look far enough out, it's kind of like, we're not going to be paying attention to the Blazers forever here. You know what I mean? It's the Canucks.
We'll see.
Right? But like, we'll grow to hate them eventually. But in the more immediate, it would be fun to have Scoot on TV in Seattle every single night, especially if he's good and fun.
Yeah.
And I still believe in Shaden.
So speaking of root sports, it's time for your favorite segment.
Don't burn yourself. We got Mariners hot takes coming at ya.
Okay, so I want to talk about something more important than Mariners baseball.
Oh.
That's right, children's baseball. The reason I was not watching the Mariners this weekend, in fact, aside from all of it.
Oh, aside from all the other reasons.
Just the whole experience of watching the Mariners. You understand.
Yes, they were taking 2 out of 3.
Oh, it's really, really thrilling stuff. So, Luca's team has a tournament this weekend. One that we feel like they should probably be able to win. We know most of the teams in the tournament pretty well. We've done our scouting or whatever. We've looked through every game they've played. Except for there's one team that we don't know that much about. They're a brand new team. They haven't played that many games. So during the tournament, things are going pretty well. Luca's team is winning every game or whatever. They're dominating. They're not giving up any runs. And on the other side of the bracket, there's this other team shutting out everyone. They're run ruling them in 4 innings. They had given up only 1 run all tournament before the championship game. And where do you think this team is from?
Mercer Island?
From way down in the Southland of Canada.
What?
The Langley BC 10U All-Stars. So So Luka's starting the championship game, and straight up, this game to me is revenge for all of the Mariners Blue Jays games. All the times you've experienced this, I've been in downtown Seattle and seen these people come here trying to pay with their doubloons or whatever they use. The metric system, the music of Nickelback, and them claiming their north while living way down in sunny Toronto. Or Montreal, for that fact. Right before the game, Luka's coach comes up to him and says he just got a text from Dave Wainhouse, noted Canadian, and Luka's pitching coach. He says, this actually happened. He says, Dave texted me to say, tell Luka to shove it down the throats of those little fucking Canadian bastards. This is how you know we're playing baseball, by the way. The casual swearing to a 10-year-old.
Oh, boy.
That's where it's at. And I knew that Dave Wainhouse didn't actually text that to the coach, but I'm so happy that he told Luka this, and he had the voice right. He had everything right. I'm not even exaggerating. This actually happened. So anyway, bottom of the first rolls around. Luka's on the mound. He goes 3-0 to the first batter. And I'm freaking out. They were close pitches, but they're all balls. And I swear to God, I'm having Mitch Wild Thing Williams flashbacks. This has gone south, literally. He will never hear the end of it if he blows this game. From me, of course. If he gets roughed up by a bunch of 10-year-olds who aren't even from Banff. But he fights back after that. Goes 3-0. Strikes out the kid on 3 pitches after that. Later in the inning, 3-0 again, strikes out the kid after that. He throws for the rest of the game like 4 more balls, and he's locked in. He ends up going complete game shutout, 7 strikeouts in 4 innings. I know, not enough. They win the championship 13-0, and that one World Series is ours again. That's right. We're taking it back by shoving it down the throats of these, very polite, I should add, Canadian bastards.
We the North. We the North.
That was for the North
We
right
the
there.
North. Wow, truly incredible stuff.
Don't Google the latitude?
Of Langley, BC. Yes,
Langley,
I'm aware that Langley, BC, all of BC is north of us. It's a different provinces.
Way down there in sunny Langley, BC.
But as Pelton quotes brought to our attention earlier this week, 70% of the Canadian population is south.
And there's
of Seattle.
30 depressed % of those people after this weekend.
Oh no. Oh boy.
Their entire hopes of the entire.
Oh man, I didn't put this in the rundown.
What was that?
Also, we you know what? We forgot to check in on the
Coachella Valley.
Yeah, Coachella Valley Firebirds, who were off to a 3-0 lead in the series the last time that I checked in. They were doing stuff where they were telling the citizens of the Coachella Valley area not to eat any Hershey's candy during the series.
Really?
Hershey's chocolate. Wow, Coachella Valley won game 6. I guess they were only up 2-0. This series is going 7.
Wow.
It's
really serious. Really,
Calder
it's gone on
Cup.
Forever.
Big stuff. But
Is there anything after the Calder Cup? Because
No,
there keeps
that's it.
being
That's it.
more.
At some point, they got to stop playing hockey and prepare for the next season.
In the desert.
But so there was a move in the WHL. The Winnipeg Ice, who got taken down by the Thunderbirds in the WHL finals, have been sold and are being relocated to Wenatchee.
What?
For next season. They're going way down south to Wenatchee.
Wow. A massive toast to that right there. We got another one, Canada.
Canadians, they haven't won the Stanley Cup in
They're moving all
decades.
the way north from Winnipeg to Wenatchee.
So the Mariners, they went 4-2 on their homestand, took 2 of 3 from both the Marlins and the White Sox, but then dropped back below 500 with Tuesday's 3-1 loss in their opener at Yankee Stadium. They'll then head to Baltimore on a relatively short East Coast trip. J.P. Crawford left Tuesday's game in the 3rd inning with a right shoulder contusion, so we'll see his status. No Mariners push in the latest All-Star voting
Do you
returns.
want to know what's even worse about Canada?
What?
how good they are at voting for players for the All-Star game.
Are they? Bo Bichette?
Oh yeah, Bo Bichette's like the starting second baseman in the fucking All-Star game. And meanwhile, nobody's voting for Colton Wong.
Jose Caballero isn't even sixth in the voting anymore. I believe.
Was he really? Is he on the ballot?
That's what he was the last time. We
is
did
he
it.
being written in?
We talked about it.
Wow.
I mean, it's not a write-in vote anymore. There's not paper ballots. It's not 1993.
They're passing them out at the Kingdom.
God damn, we voted
and,
for all of
and
them.
you're punching through like 5 at a time to make sure that Rich goddamn Amaro and Eric Anthony are all-stars.
Well, that was 1994 apparently. Voting for that ends Thursday morning. Mariners are in the top 4 at their
I'm
positions.
reserving this take for next week, but we're not even good at voting for the All-Star game.
I agree. All right, Sounders, coming off their bye week, return on Wednesday in a battle of 2 of the top 3 teams in the Western Conference. As expected, LAFC did move a point ahead of the Sounders in the West standings last weekend. They still have 2 matches in hand after reaching the final of the CONCACAF Champions League. LAFC's 1.81 points per match tops in the West. Those 2 teams played to a scoreless draw in Seattle earlier this season, so hopefully a little more excitement in this one. Sounders back home Saturday to host Orlando City, which comes in 7th in the East. Sounders will play both of those games without Jordan Morris and Christian Roldan, called into U.S. men's national team camp ahead of the Gold Cup, which starts Saturday. They're also without Alex Roldan, who is also playing in the Gold Cup.
Honduras, right?
Is it Honduras?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You say so. You seem very confident about it. Because
I pronounced it right and everything.
His family is also from El Salvador. Also, there's apparently... Yeah, he's playing for El Salvador.
Honduras.
Okay. Look, you only get this kind of podcasting on the Fabulous Podcast. Nowhere else in Seattle sports podcasting are you getting debates about which country Alex Roldan plays for. Will Rain.
Tell me about the Gold Cup, though.
Gold Cup. It's the CONCACAF Championship.
How often do
Every
they play
2
this?
years?
2 years.
Yeah.
Do we care?
A little, but also like the USMNT is constantly playing Mexico now. They were in the CONCACAF Nations League final on Sunday, which
and
they
we
won.
care about that, right? The Nations
Sort
League.
of. And I don't. Is Greg Berhalter taking over as manager at some point during this competition?
I just know we really care about the Nations League. That's the new cup. We care about the Nations
You're
League.
thinking about the MLS Liga MX Nations League.
Oh, yeah. No, there's a different Nations League, of course. People are constantly tweeting about a match against Mexico. And I'm like,
Exactly.
can we just stop caring about, like, maybe World Cup got it right. FIFA got it right by playing these matches only once every 4 years. Because we're just playing Mexico so often. It's really hard to be like, no. This is the time we care.
I agree. Oil Rain played a sluggish, scoreless draw Saturday in hot and humid Houston. Despite playing with a player advantage for the final 45 minutes due to a red card, Rain still had just 1 shot on goal and were outshot 18-8 overall. But Fallon Tellis-Joyce came through with 5 saves to preserve the single point. In addition to Megan Rapinoe with that calf injury we talked about last week, the Rain also played without Jess Fishlock and Rose Lavelle due to injuries. They have now fallen 3 points off the pace in the NWSL standings as part of a 3-team tie for third. One of those teams they will face on Saturday is the hated rival San Diego Wave. The Wave and Rain sport identical 6-4-2 records and +5 goal differentials, despite the fact that Alex Morgan has scored just 2 goals in league play since
Honestly,
March.
we play the Wave so much now that I feel like I can't even work up a hatred for the Wave.
Wow. Really makes you think. Saturday will be the last game.
Every sport should play 1 game per year.
You don't feel that way about college football, though. When they used to play 1 game at the end of the season that mattered.
No, that's different. It's not we're playing the same teams. You don't do a home and a home with Oregon. You play Oregon 1 time per year.
Except possibly in the Pac-12 championship now. Saturday will be the last game for players headed for national team training ahead of the World Cup. We know that means Jordan Heidema and Quinn is part of Canada's roster from OL Reign. The U.S. women's national team roster will be announced later this week. Obviously, many Reign players a fixture in the U.S. women's national team, although the injuries to Megan Rapinoe and Rose Lavelle complicate their potential availability for the World Cup. Storm, as we mentioned, went 2-1 in their first multi-game road trip of the season with wins at Phoenix and Dallas. Sandwich. They're winning a lot of. Not all the games, but they are winning some games.
I thought they were like 1-8.
They had a record in that ballpark at 1 point, but now they have 3 wins against 8 losses. Sandwiched around another blowout loss at Las Vegas. As we previewed last week on the pod, rookie Ivana Dojkic moved into the starting lineup at point guard, had a big impact on offense on the road trip, averaging 14.7 points, 4.7 assists in those 3 games, scoring double figures in all of them. Mercedes Russell also moved back into the starting lineup Saturday, had her best game of the season with 12 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists. She remained a starter Tuesday to help the Storm deal with a physical Connecticut front line back at home to start a 3-game homestand. After Jewel Lloyd scored 22 points in the first half to stake the Storm to a lead, Connecticut clamped down defensively on her after halftime, particularly in the third quarter. We saw a lot of traps, and unlike against Dallas, where they played a similar strategy after halftime and the other Storm players went off offensively, that did not happen in this one as Connecticut pulled away for the victory.
So what is the record now? 3-9?
3-8, I believe.
What is the ideal record?
What is the ideal record?
Like,
I don't know. I mean, you don't want to be like hopelessly non-competitive.
Don't you think that's important though if we're doing a 2-year record?
It is, but you also want like the current roster to have some talent to add a lottery pick too. You don't want to be bereft of talent. Phoenix now last in the WNBA standings at 2-8.
Phoenix is?
Yeah, Brittany Griner and Diana Taurasi having missed the last 2 games. They also have the league's worst point differential.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Right now, looking at the 2-year record, is there like a tankathon for the WNBA?
Yes.
Okay. Where do they rank?
I haven't looked at it, but I know it exists.
Okay. I love that.
So Indiana, we've talked about, we don't want to see them in the lottery. They're currently a half game out of the last playoff spot. Conversely, Chicago, we've said we do want to see in the lottery because their strong 2022 record. They are currently in the 8th spot in the playoff standings.
Are those good things? I don't.
No, those are bad things. I told you that's the reverse of what you want. I guess there isn't a tankathon for the WNBA.
So are we able to see 2-year record where they rank for the lottery quickly?
I would probably have to put that together.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's a calling for you.
Clearly there is.
ESPN analyst stuff isn't working out very well. I've seen some comments, and
a lot of people wanted me to get fired. I definitely saw that.
I saw a lot of comments. People just think maybe you're not that good at your job, and maybe this is a new calling for you.
I feel like I can do them both.
WNBA not mock drafting.
Just record
keeping. Yeah, just literally just the year over year.
I do have like the simulations. I have not run them yet this season, but they do take into account 2-year record and your odds of winning the lottery.
All right, put them together.
Okay. Well, I'm not going to be
11:27 p.m. How long will that take? 2-3 minutes.
Do that in the pod, but we will do that for next week.
It's all about Caitlin Clark, though, right? Are there any other players who matter?
Well, I mentioned Cameron Brink from Stanford, who we'll be able to see at Climate Pledge Arena this very Friday night at the Champions of Change All-Star basketball game. not eligible for the 2024 WNBA draft. Jake won. But also, we'll see about Paige Beckers, whether she decides to go back for another season at UConn because of the injuries that have hampered her career.
Are there any players from LSU?
Angel Reese.
Okay.
So also, like, all of these players will have a potential 5th year of eligibility, but some of them certainly will enter the draft.
Angel Reese is like a typical year number 1 pick in the draft player.
I think so, yeah. Yeah, I mean, she was the best player on the best team. She's starring in Starry commercials. Happened to see that earlier this evening.
Okay. So there's options even if the Storm don't get the first pick.
Correct. It's just a good year to have a high pick period, I think.
Okay. Well, let's keep cheering on those L's.
Competitive L's. Some UW men's basketball news this week. Jeff Goodman of Stadium Sports first to report that Hall of Famer Larry Brown will likely join Mike Hopkins' staff. Brown, who will turn 83 in September, was an assistant at Memphis for the 2021-22 season before moving to an advisory role last year and stepping down in January due to, quote, ongoing health concerns. He told the Kansas City Star that the deal is, quote, not close to being official, while Dogman.com reported that Brown would serve as an analyst as part of the staff.
What?
Larry Brown.
Why? I mean, I'm not mad about it, but like, I feel like maybe you want to retire Larry Brown.
I don't think he does. I think, look, coaching basketball is his passion.
This is NBA champion Larry Brown?
This is the only coach to have won both an NBA and an NCAA championship.
And he wants to be on the University of Washington men's basketball coaching staff.
He does.
With head coach Mike Hopkins.
Yep.
All of those words are true?
As the reporting goes, yes.
Okay.
So
I just...
it was just not as as you said. It was not like a series of words I was expecting to read together today. I had kind of forgotten that Larry Brown was at Memphis. I mean, I watched them play in the NCAA tournament. They were in Portland.
Did he have a relationship with Penny Hardaway?
Predating that, I mean, he might have coached him with the Knicks. I feel like they probably overlapped in New York.
What is his relationship with Mike Hopkins?
I don't know.
He's been to upstate New York. He's observed the leaves changing color.
I don't know. That's all
you do in upstate New York, as I understand. Never been there myself, but I hear it's lovely a certain time of year. This is Michael Jordan's coach, Larry Brown, right?
Michael Jordan's coach?
Wasn't he Michael Jordan's first coach?
No, Doug Collins was Michael Jordan's first coach.
I'm thinking of Doug Collins. But
Larry Brown, Play the Right Way, 2004 Pistons.
Yeah, the Pistons.
Coached Danny and the Miracles. Coached UCLA at one point.
Coached UCLA?
Yeah, way back in the day. The itinerant Larry Brown, always moving around. Indiana, Reggie Miller.
I kind of like Larry Brown.
So,
I mean, I don't know if players who are being recruited to the University of Washington want to hear from an 83-year-old, but can't hurt.
I suppose not. Huskies also adding Wilhelm Breidenbach is a transfer from Nebraska per his social media. A top 100 recruit out of Mater Dei High School, also Mike Hopkins' alma mater. Breidenbach played sparingly in 2 years with the Cornhuskers and will have 2 years of remaining eligible. He'd play like every game, but he's kind of a fringe part of the rotation. Aspirationally a stretch big, the 6'10" Breidenbach took more than a third of his shots from three-point range last season, but made them at just a 23% clip. He is most notable for his Rec Spec-esque goggles shaggy hair/beard. Let me tell you, I saw Nebraska play one time last season. Not even, it was like 15 minutes I saw Nebraska play. As soon as I saw this news, I remembered him immediately.
Oh my God.
Because his look is that distinctive.
Oh my God.
I was going to say, envision Chuck Klosterman.
That's exactly.
25% hairier.
This man plays college basketball and has heard the hold steady.
That's why I wanted to come to the Pacific Northwest. There wasn't enough of an indie scene in Lincoln, Nebraska.
Wow. Well, he's going to live on Vashon, so that's nice.
I feel like the ferry ride to practice every day is going to be tough.
He's going to make do. I can't believe he played at Mater Dei.
Yeah.
This dude is awesome. I'm all in. If he was on any other team, I'd hate him. But now that he's at UW, I am all in on William Breidenbach.
There you go. Wilhelm.
Wilhelm, sorry.
Wilhelm.
Also, his name is Wilhelm.
His name is Wilhelm.
Wow. Yep. This is going to be a freaking roster next year.
We've
got Larry Brown, Wilhelm Breidenbach.
This was the position that you were kind of thinking is, they needed one more big guy, basically, with Frank kept on coming back from the ACL injury and the possibility of, foul trouble between him and Braxton Mia if they play together. So there you go. One more big.
I love the term aspirationally.
It's not. It was not in my spell checker aspirationally, but I believe it to be a word. Last thing I wanted to mention.
My new favorite Husky. I love this dude.
Last thing I wanted to mention.
But I would say Hop he's kind of on a heater right now.
He's done what you. what he needed to do basically this offseason to rebuild the roster.
He needed to go out and get Wilhelm Breidenbach.
And Larry Brown. 83, soon to be 83-year-old Larry Brown. So, yeah, I mean, look, I think the Huskies have a real chance to make the NCAA tournament next year, and we'll see what happens from there. All right, the last thing I wanted to mention this week, not a lot of Seahawks news out there, but one thing that happened last week, a very exciting event. Pete Carroll went on the Seahawks Man-to-Man podcast.
Did he really?
With third Pelton brother Mike Sean Dugar and Christopher Kidd, friend of the pod.
How was that?
It was delightful.
How did I not see this everywhere
except
on
for
Twitter?
except for him explaining establish the run philosophy for an extended period of time.
Did Mike Sean just like bite his tongue during it?
I wouldn't say bite his tongue. I wouldn't say that.
He pushed back on it a little bit?
No, I would say that he, it's Pete Carroll. He's presenting a compelling case. You don't want to be too harsh while he's on your podcast.
No, of course.
We only do that with a small handful of our guests.
Were we harsh with Katie?
No, Katie's harsh with us.
Get Wilhelm Breidenbach on, be harsh about him being a stretch four.
Oh, no, I'm not going to say that aspirationally.
Be very positive on the Drive-By Truckers catalog, but a little bit more skeptical on his ability as a stretch four.
Does Bright Eyes have Nebraska ties?
Absolutely, okay, Bright Eyes has Nebraska ties.
That's what I was thinking. He was listening to a lot of.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
So the two best moments on that. I mean, number one, from a serious standpoint, Pete Carroll talking about, I guess three. Pete Carroll talking about Marshawn Lynch as an example of him kind of letting players be themselves and the benefits of that was really interesting. He talked about kind of the evolution of the defense and, how the purest form of it, apparently the Pete Carroll defense that they played in Seattle was with Dean Quinn because they had worked together in San Francisco, where he said that kind of the 49ers reached a high level of that defense, as obviously the Seahawks did in the Legion of Boom era. And then number three, him talking about how he had no idea where Quandre Diggs got the nickname Nino. And Mike Sean very politely pointing out that it came from the movie New Jack City, and Pete saying he'd have to watch that this weekend.
Oh, I'm a little surprised that Pete's not up on New Jack City.
An American classic.
I feel like Pete has
Has he not heard the rewatchables about New Jack City? It's quite good.
I feel like for him, his cultural level is New Jack City era.
Yeah.
He was probably only in his 60s when it came out.
No, he was much younger than that. But Chris Kidd did point out at one point that Pete Carroll had been coaching for 20 years longer than he'd been alive.
Was his tone just bemused that he was there? I feel like Pete is really good at that, of being like I kind of can't believe that I'm here. Or
no, I wouldn't say that he couldn't believe he was there. No, I wouldn't say that.
Like you all know that I'm here. I'm Pete Carroll.
I don't think he thought he made it clear that obviously I'm a big deal that I'm here, because Pete's not going to do that.
No, that's not what I mean. Pete's not a big timer.
Yeah.
Pete's he'll give you shit for being
right.
You wanted me to be here and I'm doing this.
Yes.
That's what I mean. I don't know the exact term for it.
But I think the tone was a lot and you should obviously listen to this podcast, as everyone should, but it was kind of enjoying the opportunity to have a longer conversation, because Mike Sean was talking about how
we would gladly have as long of a conversation with Pete Carroll as he wants.
Absolutely. Open invite. Open invite.
Never asked him.
We have not specifically asked him, but Mike Sean was saying that he saves his questions for the end of press conferences and lets other people get their questions in. And Pete was talking about knowing that Mike Sean is interested in kind of learning about the game and that sort of thing. So it was a fun conversation from that standpoint.
That's awesome. I will say Pete Carroll, literally through anything, no matter what, how you feel about Pete Carroll, the establishing the run stuff, the being an old man about sports stuff. Right. I think right now Pete Carroll on the Pete Carroll-ometer, right? To greatest coach of all time scale to we absolutely hate him scale. Pete's in good graces right now.
Yeah, I mean, here's what I would say about this is even when we get frustrated sometimes with Pete Carroll's in-game coaching,
yes,
Pete Carroll in June is always hitting it out
Exactly.
of the park.
That's what I'm saying, is that no matter what, you never would be like, Pete Carroll is a bad person. Pete Carroll, like, is a dick or whatever. Pete Carroll always is seemingly a very good hang.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's a really good quality as a coach. That's why he's so relatable at his advanced age, right? Like, that's why you hire Larry Brown to be on your coaching staff at 83 years old, because he can still hang. But Pete Carroll is just like...
I felt like Larry Brown in his prime was a tough hang at times.
We drink some scotch.
But is your coach? I mean, I've never interacted with Larry Brown on any level outside of like maybe a pregame press conference. I once had a dinner with his brother, who was quite. He was a good hang.
What I'm saying is that Pete Carroll at 70 some years old is cooler than Jim Harbaugh at any age. And is cooler than most NFL head coaches at any age. Pete Carroll can fucking hang. And that is a great quality.
Oh, yeah.
'Cause a lot of coaches are so rigid, right? It's just like, you could see it in Mike McDaniel, right? You could see the lineage.
Oh.
You know that there are people where you're like, that's our dude.
Okay. I thought you were saying that in a negative way about Mike McDaniel.
No. I'm saying it in a negative way about most coaches.
Yeah.
Most football coaches are really, really dry. They care about football, probably the wrong things about football. They're kind of dicks, and they're really condescending to their fans. They would not go on Seahawks man to man.
I agree.
So I'm impressed with Pete.
Shouts to Pete.
Again, on the Pete Carrollometer, he's at maximum Pete Carroll right now.
Wow.
Right? It's June. We got Geno coming back. We got Jackson Smith and Jigbud, Devin Witherspoon. Like, come on. You could not. They made the playoffs with Geno
Only
Smith.
used 1 second round pick on a running back.
Whatever. That's fine. I'm a Charbonnet guy.
On that note, you're supposed to say thanks for listening.
hold on.
Oh, what did you?
Wilhelm Breidenbach is wide awake this morning.
Thanks for listening.